Port St. Lucie, Florida, is a city known for its suburban quiet, palm-lined streets, and sunny, slow-paced charm. A town where neighbors wave to one another and children play in manicured yards. But in July 2011, the city became infamous for a crime so shocking that it defied all comprehension. Tyler Hadley, a troubled teenager from a seemingly ordinary home, committed a heinous act of violence that shattered his family and horrified the nation. This is the story of Tyler Joseph Hadley, a boy who murdered his own parents and threw a party over their corpses, his actions driven by a toxic mix of resentment, detachment, and a chilling lack of remorse. Blake and Mary Jo Hadley were known in their neighborhood as kind, caring people who worked hard to provide a stable life for their two sons, Ryan and Tyler. Blake, a power plant worker, was described as quiet but friendly, while Mary Jo, an elementary school teacher, was warm and nurturing. Tyler, the younger of their two boys, had always been a challenging child. As a young boy, he exhibited behavioral issues that became more pronounced as he entered adolescence. By the time he reached his late teens, Tyler had developed a reputation for being moody, unpredictable, and rebellious. Though his parents tried their best to guide him, Tyler's behavior spiraled out of control. He began skipping school, drinking heavily, and experimenting with drugs. His social circle included a group of similarly disaffected teens, and he often spoke of feeling misunderstood and trapped by his parents' rules. In the months leading up to the crime, tensions in the Hadley household reached a breaking point. Tyler frequently clashed with his parents, especially Mary Jo, who tried to impose stricter boundaries in an attempt to curb his destructive habits. But Tyler's resentment only grew, festering beneath the surface until it erupted in an unspeakable act of violence. On the morning of July 16th, Tyler Hadley woke up with a sinister plan. The idea to kill his parents had been brewing in his mind for weeks, fueled by a toxic cocktail of anger, resentment, and detachment. He had told friends that he was going to throw a huge party at his house that night, but no one believed him. After all, Tyler's parents would never allow such an event. By mid-afternoon, Tyler's intentions had crystallized. He took his parents' cell phones and hid them, ensuring they couldn't call for help. Then, he retrieved a claw hammer from the garage and walked into the living room, where his mother sat at the computer. Without warning, Tyler struck Mary Jo in the back of the head with the hammer. The blow stunned her, but it did not kill her. As she screamed for help, Tyler continued his assault, striking her repeatedly until she collapsed to the floor. Her cries alerted Blake, who ran into the room. A struggle ensued as Blake fought to defend himself, but Tyler, fueled by rage and adrenaline, overpowered him. He bludgeoned his father with the same hammer, the force of his blows growing more violent with each strike. When it was over, both Mary Jo and Blake Hadley lay dead, their bodies bloodied and broken. Tyler, now covered in blood, stood over their corpses. But instead of remorse, he felt a twisted sense of liberation. Tyler knew he needed to cover his tracks before his friends arrived. With chilling precision, he set to work cleaning up the crime scene. He dragged his parents' bodies into the master bedroom and stacked them on top of one another, covering them with towels, books, and household items in an attempt to hide the evidence. He then scrubbed the living room, trying to remove the blood that had splattered across the walls and floor. Though the task was grim, Tyler seemed unfazed. He was determined to go through with his plan to host the biggest party of his life. Once the cleaning was done, Tyler logged onto Facebook and posted an invitation. "Party at my house tonight. HMU." The message spread quickly among his peers. Tyler had a reputation for throwing wild parties, and word of his impromptu gathering traveled fast. By evening, dozens of teenagers began arriving at the Hadley home, unaware of the gruesome secret hidden just down the hall. As the sun set over Port St. Lucie, Tyler's house filled with teenagers eager to drink, smoke, and revel in their freedom. The air buzzed with music, laughter, and the smell of marijuana. Tyler, normally quiet and reserved, was the center of attention, walking through the crowd and chatting with guests as if nothing was amiss. But there were clues that something was terribly wrong. Friends noticed that Tyler seemed unusually jittery and paranoid. He repeatedly warned guests not to go into the master bedroom, claiming it was off limits. The house itself was in disarray, with a lingering odor that some guests described as gross or rotten. As the night wore on, Tyler confided in his best friend, Michael Mandel. In a hushed voice, he revealed the horrifying truth. "I killed my parents." At first, Michael thought Tyler was joking. But when Tyler took him to the master bedroom and showed him the bodies, the grim reality set in. Michael was horrified but pretended to remain calm, fearing what Tyler might do if he panicked. Despite the unimaginable crime that had taken place, the party continued into the early hours of the morning. Over 60 teenagers came and went, oblivious to the dark secret hidden in the house. Some guests noticed bloodstains on the floor and walls, but they brushed it off as spilled drinks or a careless prank. Tyler, meanwhile, seemed detached from the chaos around him. He drank heavily, smoked marijuana, and repeatedly told guests that they were witnessing the last party of his life. At one point, he even mused aloud about fleeing to another country, saying, "I'm gonna go to jail or kill myself. I just don't know yet." By 2 a.m., most of the guests had left, leaving Tyler alone with a few close friends. Michael Mandel, still grappling with the shock of Tyler's confession, decided to take action. He secretly took a photo with Tyler, hoping to have evidence that could link him to the crime. Then, he left the house and called the police. At 4:40 a.m., officers arrived at the Hadley residence. They found Tyler sitting alone in the living room, dazed and disoriented. When they asked about his parents, he claimed they were out of town. But the truth was waiting behind the master bedroom door. When officers entered the room, they found Blake and Mary Jo Hadley's bodies beneath a pile of debris, the claw hammer resting nearby. Tyler was arrested on the spot, his chilling crime finally exposed. Tyler Hadley was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. During his trial, the details of his crime shocked even the most seasoned prosecutors. Witnesses described Tyler's erratic behavior, his growing resentment toward his parents, and his obsession with throwing the party that ultimately became his undoing. In 2014, Tyler pleaded no contest to the charges and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During sentencing, the judge called his actions heinous, atrocious, and cruel, a description that barely scratched the surface of the horror he had inflicted. The murders of Blake and Mary Jo Hadley left an indelible scar on the Port St. Lucie community. Friends and family struggled to reconcile the image of Tyler as a troubled but harmless teenager with the brutal reality of his actions. For many, the case served as a grim reminder of the dangers of untreated mental illness, substance abuse, and unchecked rage. It also highlighted the devastating consequences of ignoring warning signs in troubled youth. Tyler Hadley's crime is often cited as an example of what criminologists call family annihilation, a rare but deeply disturbing phenomenon in which individuals kill their entire family, often out of resentment or a desire for control. In Tyler's case, his actions were driven by a toxic blend of entitlement, anger, and a desperate need for validation. By hosting a party over his parents' dead bodies, Tyler seemed to revel in his crime, seeking attention and admiration even as his world crumbled around him. Tyler Hadley's crime was not a spontaneous act of rage but a premeditated decision born out of deep-seated psychological turmoil. Experts analyzing the case have speculated on several possible motives and contributing factors, including Tyler's strained relationship with his parents, his history of drug use, and his apparent lack of empathy. From a young age, Tyler displayed signs of behavioral problems that often went unaddressed or misunderstood. He was diagnosed with depression in his early teens and prescribed medication, but he frequently stopped taking it. Instead, he turned to recreational drugs, including marijuana, ecstasy, and even hallucinogens. His friends described him as someone who constantly sought escape, whether through substances, parties, or attention-seeking behavior. Tyler's resentment toward his parents was palpable. While Blake and Mary Jo were by no means overly strict, they enforced rules that clashed with Tyler's growing desire for autonomy. For Tyler, his parents represented the authority figures standing in the way of the life he wanted, a life of no boundaries, no consequences, and no responsibilities. But beyond the surface-level rebellion, there was something much darker at play. Tyler's actions suggested an almost pathological inability to connect with others on a human level. The sheer brutality of the murders, combined with his decision to host a party afterward, points to a profound detachment from reality and an alarming disregard for human life. One cannot overlook the role of drugs and peer pressure in Tyler's descent into violence. In the weeks leading up to the murders, Tyler's drug use had escalated significantly. He frequently used ecstasy, a drug known for its effects on mood and perception. While ecstasy is often associated with feelings of euphoria, heavy use can lead to paranoia, impulsivity, and even psychosis. Tyler also surrounded himself with friends who, though unaware of his murderous intentions, encouraged his reckless behavior. In the days before the crime, Tyler repeatedly mentioned his plan to kill his parents to several friends. Most dismissed his statements as jokes, either unable or unwilling to confront the possibility that he might be serious. One friend later recalled Tyler saying, "I'd kill my parents if I could throw a party without them at the time." The comment was brushed off as teenage hyperbole. But in hindsight, it was a chilling glimpse into Tyler's mindset. When news of the murders broke, the Port St. Lucie community was plunged into a state of shock and disbelief. The Hadleys had been well liked and respected, their lives seemingly free of the kind of turmoil that often precedes such tragedies. For neighbors and friends, the revelation that Tyler was the perpetrator was almost incomprehensible. Vigils were held in memory of Blake and Mary Jo, with hundreds of people gathering to pay their respects. Mourners described Mary Jo as a dedicated teacher who cared deeply about her students and Blake as a hardworking and generous man who always had a kind word for others. For many, the murders raised uncomfortable questions about how such violence could erupt in a seemingly idyllic suburban setting. Tyler's case became a focal point for discussions about mental health, parenting, and the pressures faced by modern teenagers. One of the most controversial aspects of the case was the role of Tyler's friends in the events leading up to and following the murders. Several of Tyler's close friends admitted that he had hinted at his plans, but none took his words seriously. Even after the party, when Tyler confessed to Michael Mandel, it took hours for Michael to contact the police. Critics argued that Tyler's friends had failed to act responsibly, either out of fear or apathy. But others pointed out the difficulty of recognizing the seriousness of such statements, especially coming from a teenager known for his outlandish behavior. Michael Mandel, in particular, faced a storm of public scrutiny. While he was ultimately the one who alerted authorities, many questioned why he didn't act sooner. Michael later explained that he was terrified of Tyler and unsure of how to handle the situation. The trial of Tyler Hadley drew widespread media attention, with reporters flocking to the St. Lucie County Courthouse to cover the proceedings. Tyler's demeanor during the trial was a subject of intense scrutiny. Some observers described him as emotionless, while others noted moments of apparent remorse. The defense team attempted to argue that Tyler's actions were the result of severe mental illness, exacerbated by his drug use. They pointed to his history of depression and his erratic behavior as evidence that he was not fully in control of his actions. However, the prosecution countered with the overwhelming evidence of premeditation. Tyler had not only planned the murders but had also taken calculated steps to cover them up and manipulate those around him. The jury was shown chilling photos of the crime scene, along with testimony from partygoers who described Tyler's disturbing behavior that night. In the end, the jury found Tyler guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The judge handed down a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that Tyler would spend the rest of his days behind bars. Since his incarceration, Tyler Hadley has largely faded from the public eye, his name remembered primarily in connection to his horrific crime. Reports from prison suggest that he has struggled to adjust to life behind bars. In interviews, he has expressed remorse for his actions, though many question the sincerity of his statements. For Tyler, the prison walls serve as a constant reminder of the life he destroyed, not just his parents' lives, but his own as well. He is now a cautionary tale, a living testament to the destructive power of resentment and unchecked anger. The Tyler Hadley case continues to haunt those who knew him, as well as the broader community of Port St. Lucie. It is a story that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of violence, the fragility of family bonds, and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most ordinary lives. For the Hadley family, the tragedy is immeasurable. Blake and Mary Jo were taken from the world in the most brutal and senseless way imaginable, their lives cut short by their own son. Their memory endures in the hearts of those who loved them, but the shadow of their deaths remains a heavy burden. As for Tyler, his story serves as a grim warning about the consequences of unchecked anger and the importance of addressing mental health issues before they escalate into violence. His actions were inexcusable, but they were also a reflection of a deeply broken individual, a boy who, in his quest for freedom, destroyed everything that mattered. The story of Tyler Hadley is a dark and chilling chapter in the annals of true crime. It is a tale of unimaginable betrayal, the shattering of a family, and the devastating consequences of anger and alienation. For Port St. Lucie, the memory of that fateful July night lingers as a reminder of the fragility of the human psyche and the horrors that can arise when rage and resentment are left unchecked. Though Tyler sits behind bars, the echoes of his crime continue to reverberate, a haunting legacy that serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the enduring impact of violence.